Hello and welcome to Roll for Conversation. Once again, you join us for group therapy, shared despair, and holistic screaming into the void, all while proudly being woke as fuck. Iain, Mark, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Ben.
I also am fine. Ben, are they new glasses?
These are my content creation glasses.
Oh.
As much as I hate the term, when the basic thing is, it's just that I like using these whenever I'm doing something that's a little bit more on the fun side. For all our listeners, they're very, very, very clear glasses. Very cute. Not as round as I wanted them to be, but I love them.
I like that you have an outfit for this sort of thing.
You know, you gotta dress to impress. Like, if we ignore, the camo t-shirt, I feel like I'm a little bit smart.
Well, I've bought, I can't say anything because I've bought 5 pairs of different coloured aviator sunglasses,
yes!
so that when I could record videos, I could just swap them randomly. Which in my latest video, I did wear my red ones because I felt that was the most doomness, blood and hell and whatnot. Which I did release my latest video, which kind of people seemed quite all right with and to agree. It seems like it's shaking out about the actual review scores for Doom the Dark Ages, apart from one guy this morning or last night that just a man with an avatar with laser eyes said to me, "You have some really bad taste in games." And I said to him, "Thanks for telling me, mate."
Consider me informed. I will continue as was.
Yeah, I mean, may bleed into this week's overlap with this week's big topic. Maybe not. Maybe that's one of our other gamer-related topics. But just the need to have to come on the internet, watch something and go, "Oh, I didn't like this video," and then feel you need to tell the person that made it, rather than just what I do, which is I just stop watching and then I go and watch something else. I don't know. I don't know whether you're trying to hurt me or not. I was going to put things like the dictionary definition for subjectivity or opinion, and that I can like a shit game. But I guess that's the internet. So
I feel like everyone.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to some weird libidinal thing with these guys, aren't there? They're something incredibly Freudian about having to tell people what you think about stuff at all costs.
Yes.
Main character energy for sure.
Well, I think that's what the internet generally gives you, doesn't it? It's promoted that I get in the same way that I feel sort of entitled to create videos or and put them out onto the internet. I guess it just if it makes people feel entitled that they're allowed to share their thoughts and opinions on the internet, and I suppose they are, and that's what the comments are for. But I think it might be a generational thing, maybe because a few of us grew up where the internet became a thing whilst we were growing up, rather than always having grown up with the internet. Maybe if I had grown up and be of a younger generation where I'd always had the internet, maybe I would feel like I'm more entitled to be able to just say what I want, because I would have been cultured to say my feelings. I don't know.
It's just the first thing that came to your head.
Yeah. So I don't know. But anyway, that guy, I mean, you've contributed to the momentum of my video by commenting. It doesn't really matter like what you said. And I liked and I hearted your message anyway. And then I gave you a sassy response and I carried on because I'm too, like Murtaugh, I'm too old for this shit. Only Murtaugh seemed really put out, whereas I'm just just not that bothered. But anyway.
Who's Murtaugh?
Murtaugh from, it's Murtaugh from, what's the fucking film that, oh my God, Lethal Weapon. Which obviously, I'm surprised you don't know purely by dint of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia rather than the actual films itself. Because but I suppose the less says about that, the better. But the sunny versions.
What's
Oh,
the film series in that?
it's called Thunder Gun.
That's it. Well done.
I think it's Thunder Gun. Yeah, you say that, Ben. Like, if you've not seen it, I don't know. You should.
Yeah, I can't
You've
say
watched
that I
all of
have.
it, haven't you, Ben? Hang on, are we talking about Lethal Weapon or Always Sunny?
No, I'm talking about Sunny. Thunder
Okay.
Gun is in Sunny. Lethal Weapon,
Is it
and
real?
they make Lethal Weapon 5 in Sunny. I think, like they make the next version, and they have all the kids come in, and they show it to kids.
Oh,
I don't know why. And Frank Reynolds is dressed as a Native American and is banging a prostitute or something. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. Anyway.
On that note, what have you all been up to this week?
Well, don't let the hair fool you, but I am no longer hungover.
Let's go.
Okay.
It was a rough ride yesterday. I questioned my will to go on a couple of times, but we're at the other side of what was the worst hangover I've ever had in quite some time. And I feel born anew.
And I can see
anyone
you
does.
unscrewing the cap from maybe what was one of the soft drinks that came
full
with
sugar
your
Pepsi.
ritualistic purchase yesterday.
Yeah.
I always knew you'd make it out the other side once the order went in for a Domino's like combo meal.
Well, I wasn't
And
sure
you
if we were on the run for like a 2-dayer, but
Yes.
I managed to shade that by the looks of things.
Yeah.
That's
And
I'm counting my blessings.
and apparently you battled cancer at the same time as reviving yourself from a
Yeah. Well, I didn't have the Teenage Cancer Trust charity meal deal in the end because I went to Pizza Hut, and
because you're mean.
yeah, because I did.
I decided I wanted them to fuck them.
But also, like, where do you get off selling that food and acting like you're doing something good for cancer? Because I don't think there's anything in Domino's that hasn't been processed at least.
There's
3
a lot
times.
of processed, or as my partner likes to always look at things and point out to me that this is an ultra processed food.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, everything is, and
Iain.
it makes me angry every time because I'm just like, I know, because I know that with that comment comes like a slight, there's judgment behind it, which is, it's an unspoken thing of like, well, you're not supposed to eat this.
Yeah, it's not just her pointing out ultra processed foods because she likes to do it, right?
But then it's like,
To my knowledge.
yeah, well, then it's like BDS in fucking Microsoft. It's just I can't escape it. They've seeded themselves in so many parts of my life that it's just the same. They're just the same as an ultra processed food.
Yeah.
Like everything is ultra processed or processed to some degree, and I am just living in a world trying to do my best.
I'm just in an
I'm
ultra processed
fighting.
world.
Yeah, I'm
Ultra-processed
fighting
girl.
against it, but yeah, exactly. Material girl. Well, that's great to hear that you're over your hangover. I don't have really a hangover. I did have a very sore back this morning because also being too old to do things that you used to do when you were younger with no consequence, like drinking, is I went to Comic-Con yesterday, and that was a impromptu thing because we usually go, but it kind of crept up on us. And then I was just sort of like, I made the decision to kind of push
Which
it
is odd
through.
because you should have been able to smell it coming, really.
And so, yeah, I made the decision to push it through, and I got us tickets. So we actually got up earlier than I would usually get up on a Saturday morning, and then went to the Excel Centre in London and partook in the great festival of nerd consumerism that is Comic-Con, because we only go for like one day. We're like one-dayers. But I always walk around, and it's taken me about 4 Comic-Cons to kind of like grasp this, but we always walk around, and I'm always thinking to myself, like whose time to fucking, why have you come to Comic-Con and you're sitting there playing Dungeons and Dragons for like 4 hours? And then I realize, like, I am not a true nerd. I'm just a what's the term when you're just sort of visiting? Well, I'm just a visitor. I'm just a visiting nerd passing through consumer land because I'm a tourist. Yes, I'm a nerd tourist because I realised why you sit down and do miniature painting or play Magic the Gathering for several hours when there's all these things you've got to go around and look at is because you've bought the weekend ticket. So if you're going for 3 days, I see that's how you should do it. I don't know if I can bring myself to go to Comic-Con for 3 days. Plus, each time we go, there's less and less things going on where I know who the fuck people are. Like the two main draws. I mean, I'm already at that stage anyway. I know tangentially, like I see things and I go, oh, that's Chainsaw Man, or that's this, and that's One Piece or whatever. And I'm aware of these things, but I haven't consumed them. But then there's a whole sort of area between, which seems to be a lot of anime that's to do with demons and stuff. And it's not Demon Slayer because I've watched that as well. But there's just a lot of stuff that I don't know who the fuck this is. And then there was loads of people talking and I don't know who they are. There's loads of writers and I don't know who they are. And there's loads of like voice actors. Sometimes I recognize the game or something they might be from. But we looked this year and there was barely anything that we really kind of knew. The only two people that we properly knew, apart from Josh Drive Hayes, who I did look for because I was going to like, you know, fanboy out and go, I don't know what anything is in this place, but I do know you, like a fucking C-tier YouTube celebrity. So I don't know who these actually famous people are, but I know who.
He's like your little spinning top in a perception.
Yes, exactly. But I couldn't find him. I saw pictures of him. So he was in the area. His presence was somewhere overlapping with mine, but I never did see him. But the only two people that were there that of really real note to me is that there was David Tennant was there doing a few different panels. So what that meant is that dictates some of the vibes, which meant that this year I felt like there were way more people dressed as David Tennant, Doctor Who. There's way more sonic screwdrivers. There's way more people running around with like Converse, like low tops and wearing a suit and an overcoat. Coincidentally, there was one guy standing outside the Costa in the middle and little fat chap. And he was wearing his full David Tennant suit, 3-piece suit, and the overcoat and everything. And you could just see his hair sticking to his forehead. He was just sweating bullets. And that's when I remembered, oh yes, today is a day of profuse sweat as everyone has like basically sealed themselves into their costumes and will not be able to move. Hence the guy that, like, he's walking along and he had a big helmet on. Do you know what he looked like? He looked like he'd come dressed as a dragoon from like Final Fantasy 14 or something.
Oh, sorry.
I guess for other Final Fantasies maybe as well. Dragoons may exist. I don't know. But like he looked like that. He could have been something else. He could have been like fucking anywhere from Evangelion to fucking Final Fantasy Dragoon. I don't know. But he'd made a very elaborate and very cool outfit. But I was wondering why he's carrying this giant latex spear with him. And as he was going through the middle at the Excel Centre, he almost like impaled a few people in the head as he came past. And I thought like, oh, it's because he can't see. But later on, I saw him again and he'd taken his helmet off because he's probably suffocating in there and just breathing his own farts or something.
Oh, no.
Toxic. But then I saw him again and he was almost doing the same thing. And then I realised it wasn't necessarily because he couldn't see. It's because he couldn't bend his fucking arm. Because I guess in order to make the sort of thing that he was wearing, he'd literally, someone must have had to assemble it on him and then, yeah. But other than that, I bought some art prints. I had a mooch around. We saw some bits and pieces. As I said to Connie, there was so much like heaving nerd bosom and flesh. Just like there's something about. Obviously, I guess in any other time of the year, a lot of these people in there are just mild-mannered nerds. But there's something about Comic-Con and cons in general and cosplay, which means like I must get my tits out and all of my flesh must bulge everywhere. And I'm not a prude. It's more just like it's kind of forced upon you at every point. And it's I always find it a very interesting experience to just like never has there been so many people living their best lives. They're like, no, this is my time. I'm going to wear the skimpy outfit. I'm going to dress like a fucking giant robot or whatever it is. Although quite a few people, you know, those blow up T-Rex outfits that seem to be well, you say you love them until you fucking go to Comic-Con and there's a few of them and they're just like, everywhere you go, you're just like, dude, we're over that now. That's gone. I understand it when you go to your mate's sort of stag do and you're like, we're going to dress you in this so that you are awkward, you're going to bash into things, you're going to look like a cunt. It's going to be great fun for us. But I don't know. But now when I see them, the only one I gave a pass is there was one, which was one of those dinosaurs, but it was a Deadpool one. I was like, okay, so that's different to the
mildly
usual ones.
creative.
Yeah. But in general, just what I was going to say is just loads of people living their best lives. Like, I guess in the amount of autism in there must have been like fucking through the roof, which is great as well. And also, obviously, despite some of the overlap with some things we might touch on in the big topic today, like, and despite gamers, nerds, a lot of them being quite weirdly toxic and maybe incel adjacent and sort of like potentially a bit fashy and bigoted. Obviously, Comic-Con is like one of the fucking gayest spaces there is. And I always very much enjoy that there's just lots of people just being like massively queer everywhere.
Yeah. I think the antithesis of something that you've just said is I don't have like much of an interest in cosplay or anything like that. Like, it's not that I'm...
Nope.
I just don't see, like, okay, you put on your outfit. What do you do now? But when someone goes dressed as like a Chaos Space Marine or something, and they put a shitload of effort into making themselves like look 7 feet tall, then I think that's very cool. But that is putting more things on rather than getting parts of you out.
Well, you mention Warhammer. No, this is fine. I'm just sort of going to draw a parallel with the fact that like when I think about the whole cosplay thing, because it's a full-time hobby, a lifestyle type thing. I see it much like the hobby of Warhammer, i.e. that there's a load of wholesome elements that are connected to it. You might say at the end, what's the fucking point of you sitting there with your little figurines and rolling dice and like, you know, we know what the point of those things are. Games are fun to play. But I always look at it, it's not just that, is it? Because there's a whole thing around it of like, you craft and you build your little miniatures and you paint them, and there's something very like relaxing there. You form friendships. It's kind of social. And I suppose in many ways cosplay is a lot like that, because some of these people obviously will have to become quite inventive, probably learn practical skills in how to craft like some Space Marine armor or something.
Especially with materials.
And they put it all together. And then when you go down there and you see... like, you just see people and they're cosplaying, and even the people that aren't cosplaying, like, they see someone that's cosplayed as the thing, and they run over and they go, "Oh, can I get your picture?" And so there is this delightful kind of like social element happening to it, where people are getting their pictures taken with each other because they're, I don't know, connoisseurs of like the cosplaying art. Now, the final thing before I want to hear, Ben, what your experiences with these kind of things is, there was, maybe this one's more for me and Mark, but there was one guy that had taken his daughters, and they looked like they were both cosplay. All three of them were cosplaying, the dad included, but they looked like they were cosplaying as classic anime. They had like blue wigs on, red wigs, and they had like, you know, I'm sure they were from some franchise that I don't know, but the dad, and forgive me, I can't remember the character's name. Connie would hate this because she's a fan and I am not. But like, the dad had come as the dog man from Spaceballs. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Weirdly niche.
No, I can't say.
Yeah, well, you say that, but he was the guy. Who's the guy who played Uncle Buck? The actor. Oh my God,
John Candy.
John Candy plays him in Spaceballs. He's like the smudge or something. Anyway, he's like a dog in a sort of overalls with a tail. Anyway, so this guy had cosplayed as him, the dad, and I said to Connie, I was like, I bet you any money his daughters were like, oh man, Dad, like every year you trot out this tired fucking cosplay of no one knows, but then within 5 minutes of him getting in there and standing at Costa because we were getting a coffee, someone came running up and went, oh, Spaceballs or something, and you could just see this guy was just like, yes, vindication. Someone knows. And then about 10 minutes later, I saw a woman walk past dressed in the same outfit, and they both bumped into each other, and they were like, they were just beside themselves, and I was like, do you know what? That's kind of cool. I like that they're. But I did say to Connie that if I was going to cosplay, you've got to cosplay as something pretty niche, and you almost don't want anyone to know it is, apart from one person will go, I know what you are, and you're like, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that would be.
I suppose and this is a recurring theme in my life. My lack of appreciation for it is because I've overlooked the process and the journey, and it's just like, okay, now you've got your clothes on, rather than the process of making a good replica of something.
There was one guy as we were walking up to go to the place where we pick up our tickets. There was one guy walking up, and you know how sometimes they say like, oh, when you wear a good suit, you sometimes feel I feel like the man, and you kind of like walk a bit different and you present yourself. There was one man that had he'd had his shirt off and he had some bits accoutrement, but he had a big mask on or a big head, and he was obviously some anime thing that I don't know about. And you could he was walking like he was like a powerful entity. And I was like, look at the way he's walking. It's like he's just feeling his outfit. Alas, you are carrying a plastic spear and whatever. But I was like, okay, he's really feeling it, and I guess I cannot deny him his feelings.
Yeah, if you find an opportunity to feel yourself a bit in a specific area, then
absolutely
more power to you. A bit of self-confidence goes a long way.
Have you conned in your time, Ben?
I went to the London Comic Con I would say a few years ago, but it was a while back. I think it's like 2018, 2019, one of them. And the reason why I remember this is because Jason Momoa was there. I think he was promoting
my man.
Yeah, I think he was promoting one of the Aquaman movies or Justice League. I can't remember. But yeah, he was just around. And one of the reasons why I was there is because back then I was really, really like adjacent to the publishing scene, and publishers do tend to go to these type of things, or at least they used to.
There was a big writer's presence yesterday.
Yeah. So like we went, and then like when I was in like the kind of like the publishing / book related like type of areas back then, lots of people were just like kind of craning their heads. And then like when I turned in my head, and it was Jason Momoa, and he was just a dude. He had his what do you call it? A tote bag. He was just walking around saying hello to people. He was having a great time.
Jason Momoa with a tote bag is a very cute image.
Yeah. It was alright. Like he was signing some stuff, just chatting with people and just walking along. That was the first and last time that I had gone. Just because I feel like I keep on misrepresenting when it's happening. So like I said to you yesterday, Iain, I was like, oh, I thought it was in June. Not to be the case, but yeah, I would like to go again at some point. It was a lot of fun. And I was just looking at the list of people this year, and you're right. There are quite a few folks that I don't really know of, but a couple of folks did stick out to me because they are part of a D&D podcast that I listen to. Also, a voice actor from a video game that I played, and an author from an author from like one of the first book series that I read when I was first back in the UK, which is a lot of fun. Yeah, so like that's 3 people, and like if you scroll down the list, there are just like hundreds. So
yeah. Patton Oswalt was there as well. But he was there doing the talk. I tried to book on, but he was doing the Sunday, so of course I was not there today. So today, Patton Oswalt is talking at Comic-Con. So
hell yeah. But yeah.
But what I don't know what in particular he's talking about, but
yeah. But
what would be your cosplay of choice then, Ben? Or is that too big a question? I think I'm going to stun lock you now.
No. It's fine. It's fine. Like I like to. For me, like there's something very, very funny about like the absurd, like having the most either obscure or absurd cosplay. So like, I don't know. I think it's just like the celebration of it. I think for me, I just want to do something so goofy and ridiculous. It would take me a little while to think of. I mean, like there's like the really, really like easy ones. It's just like I could go as like Nick Fury, but that's boring. But like I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. I'll get back to you, and then and I'll let other people know next week.
There was one guy who I think was dressed as the Pope, and then I couldn't work out whether he was cosplaying as the Pope or whether it was from an anime franchise that I don't know about. Like, I prefer to think that he'd come as the Pope because, you know, Conclave's hot at the moment.
Yep,
so
it's very in right now.
I'm going to go as the Pope. But yeah. The only other thing I would like to get your thoughts on, Ben, is moving away from Comic-Con and the stench of fucking thousands of nerds. Is you've been playing Clair Obscur a little bit.
Yes.
How have you been getting on? Do you have any other thoughts? And just obviously, so you know, I now know everything that happens because I had done like a total bitch maneuver and just watched the playthrough because I couldn't be bothered to figure out how I spend Lumina on my fucking pictos, or like I didn't mind the combat, but I'm gonna have to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it might get entertaining because I've heard like Stephanie Sterling talking about like when you start to find the right combinations of pictos and players, like she was making Mael do like millions of damage at a time and stuff. And so I was just sort of like, I know that that's there, and I know I can understand how there could be something enjoyable there. But what is the strangest thing for me about this is that it wasn't the gameplay that grabbed me, because usually I don't give a fuck about story. I just want to kind of play the game mechanically and how that makes me feel. And I don't mind if there's a little bit of story kind of served on a little side platter on the side. Just go like, nibble on this whilst you eat the main course of the game. But in this case, it was
the story.
The reason I was pursuing it and I kept playing is because I wanted to know more about the story. And obviously, you're nowhere near what I know now.
No.
But we're going to have a conversation at some point, and I'm going to find it very entertaining. So yeah, what is your thoughts and progress so far on Clair Obscur?
So from my understanding,
Expedition 33, sorry, to give it its full title.
So from my understanding, I think I'm just at the end of Act 1. I am like in like the mountainous place, and apparently that's like once you finish there, that's the end of Act 1. I'm very much enjoying it. I think it's been a little while since I've had a story kind of like drop fed like that, because essentially like I go about doing my own business, beating up the monsters, which is great, and then every once in a while like I do go back to camp and I'm just like, oh, I hope there's a little bit of like extra story coming in. And I really do, I'm very curious about the character of Mael, because she's very, I don't know what's happening there, but I do know that she's voiced by like Jennifer English, who was Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm like, the only thing I'm thinking is just like, it would be topical to to see if Mael also suffers like the shadow heart type of like journey, in the sense that there is quite something substantial that happens, but the character voiced by Jennifer English has lost her memory and isn't really like privy to that information yet. But all to say, I'm very much enjoying it. I found a few other people to join the group, and now it's really funny because like it's exactly what you said about that other person who's playing Mael, and she's just like buffing her to high heavens and she's doing like 1 million damage. I think there's just something so funny of like the shortest person in the group just like one-shotting like 20-foot monsters with like her like longsword, and it's just a lot of fun.
This is going back to your Baldur's Gate. I like a gnome with a strength of 20.
Yeah, genuinely.
You just like little people that do immense damage.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's just like
it's Ben's king.
It's just like you're like 4 foot tall, you kick a door open, or like you're just under 5 foot and you're like swiping at a monster that's like 25 foot and it just dies. It's really, really fun. I will say though, I did play it for pretty much all day yesterday. So now I'm behind on like everything else that I wanted to do this weekend. But I'm immensely enjoying it. I'm gonna take a little bit of a break and get back to it on Monday. But
have you met Eske yet, or are you on the path to meeting Eske?
Yes. He's such a curious dude. I do love that. Like, he's like, I need my rock, or I can't fly you everywhere, and he just like one shots like a skyscraper monster, and like it just makes no sense. I think that's what it is.
I mean, when you say it like that, it's just like he needs his rock, so that he can fly. Like Eske's crack rock. Yeah, I just love whoever's doing his voice acting. I don't look up these sort of things, but just. And because it's French as well, he's got a very strange voice, but he keeps calling everyone mon ami, which is very like Gambit sort of coded. But
I can see that.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's cool.
A lot of
carry
whimsy,
on.
I would say.
I'm doing my best for the listeners, because this is not a visual media. I'm doing my best poker face.
Yeah, I would say that like it is a lot of whimsy until the inevitable heartbreak. I think that's what it is. Like I feel like I'm just having a great time. These people are coming back together after like getting lost, and like seeing a lot of them like die and get like massacred on the beach. But like it's almost the idea of like found family. People are just surviving with what
Can I just say this, because all the way through the game, it really like I couldn't think of anything else. But the guy you're alluding to, the guy that murders everyone immediately, which he was a recurring enemy, like the grey-haired man they refer to him as. And I cannot think of anything other than the fact that he looks like Pierce Brosnan.
You know,
so I'm being assailed by Pierce Brosnan.
You're not wrong, actually. Yeah. No.
But not Piers Brosnan from the ABBA film, from Mamma Mia. Piers Brosnan from something else. I don't know.
Oh, Mark, I don't know if you've played it, but I'll get a picture, because like Ian's comparison is really absolutely true.
But it's actually played by Andy Serkis though, so it's like there's top quality in it. I really do feel like, Mark, you have to play it, or do watch it. Just watch it.
Yeah, watch a 6
I
hour.
watched a 7 hour.
I was going to say, how long was it?
Someone had made like a movie, so they'd kind of like weaved together parts of the combat and the overworld and stuff. So you didn't just go, well, how did we get from this cutscene to this cutscene? There is like a little bit of context provided. So you get to see a bit of like who you're fighting and what it looks like. But I obviously don't forget, I'd played like, I could start that video halfway through the 7 hours because I'd already played up to a certain point. So I'd played a fair amount. I'd given it a go, and I was now ready to just give me the fucking story. I just need to know what's fucking. Why is this happening?
But yeah. I've told myself that until I've got through the mic stand.
Yes.
Books,
Yes.
So there's 3 there, and then I'll treat myself to
bit sad.
Yeah, a bit sad.
That's a little bit sad. Anyway,
But yeah, no. Yesterday, Clair Obscur. Today, I am sorting out my office and going to do a little bit of drawing and a few other bits, and then I'll finish it up with doing reading in the evening. But I hope we're all not working tomorrow. Okay, excellent.
Occasionally, the kind of the call comes round for like, does anyone want to work like the Monday shift? And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not answering that email.
I just don't know.
Like, my time is worth more than like double pay.
Good.
I'm not that desperate.
So we're all going to be enjoying tomorrow. Good. But yeah, no, that's me. But I think that is a pretty good segue actually into the big topic. Unless there are any other thoughts or bits of whimsy people want to talk about, or shall we?
I'm all out of whimsy.
Yeah, I think Ben, take us
absolutely.
to the big topic.
So the big topic today is, can I keep my politics out of gaming? Is the apolitical political, actually? And I like some of the things that we said as like mini pointers is just that like there are some people online who might be in like the nerdy sphere and who might be also a little bit incel adjacent that decry having politics in games, or when they say politics, they could also mean minorities. But we're not going to get into that too much as of yet. But like quite a bit of the time, people will say that like, oh, this game isn't really political. I'm just here to enjoy the story, enjoy what I'm doing. It's not that deep, etc. And yeah, I think I'm just really curious to hear about like your thoughts on it, because I feel there was a certain point of time in my life where I was similar in the sense that I was like not complaining about it, but I was just playing the game for a game. There was no critical thinking going on between these ears. Like I was just thinking about the media. It was just like, oh, this gun works really well. BioShock Infinite is a really fun game. Like, what could be?
That's what they're thinking.
Yeah,
what
could be political about BioShock Infinite? Who knows? Like.
Well,
yeah,
I think an interesting thing about what you said there is kind of it, because we've got some bullet points in the show notes, and like you touched upon the fact that people shout about get politics out of games. And you said about them, like maybe they're referring to minorities, and we don't really need to touch on it too much. But what I will say is that whenever I've looked at that Steam curated list of recommendations called Woke Games Detected, then
I heard about
often they will say,
I didn't know that existed.
Oh,
it does.
Yeah.
It's fucking demented. In one of my
is it
videos,
not I thought it was a play against that spreadsheet that went round.
no, it basically is the spreadsheet. I think that's where it came from.
That's a shame.
Because it's exactly the same. I think they've taken it from there. But it's for all intents and purposes, exactly the same thing. I think it's even exactly the same data. But the only reason I mention it, and then I want to move on to the second part of the point in reference to what Ben said, is that often, you say we won't talk about it because they reference too much because they reference minorities, but when some of the examples they give of why a game is not recommended is because it will say features political flags. And I did a video about this when people were crying about the Fable remake, because apparently she's just not hot enough for you to bang.
Yeah.
And when I was I looked at that list and went through it all. Might I add, before Hassan or anyone else did that video, there's no way that they saw my video first. Don't worry about that. There's no plagiarism here. But they would often say, contains political flags. And I was just like, oh, we got like,
really?
Are they talking about like a Soviet Union flag, or has it got like the Labour flag or something like that? And what it means is, in a lot of these games, say even things like Call of Duty, which like is insane that they put that on the list of like not recommended or information advised sort of thing, as if like caution, is being that Call of Duty is the most like overtly political game you can get. in one direction, I might add, is that basically, you know, like sometimes you'll be able to get a pride flag to put on your profile tag or something.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That's a political flag. So whilst we're saying that we're not going to necessarily cover that, some of these fucking people want to try, like literally try and are labeling it as political, which I don't know whether that feeds into the first kind of thing of like them being able to say, get politics out of my games. But the reason why I wanted to mention was I think it was interesting is because you kind of, what you said there about how you used to be jumps me to the third sort of bullet point, which is like, you know, are people who complain just remembering a time when they didn't think about politics rather than a time when the games didn't actually have any politics in it. So if we went back to that example of Call of Duty, if I was fucking 15, I could probably just play it and go, I'm killing people. Like, I'm a fucking badass.
This gun is fun.
You know, gun go bang. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, obviously, and obviously, Call of Duty, no one even back then was probably going like, I am making some subversive kind of points about like oppression or something like that. It was just military industrial complex for America. It's just, you know, hoorah, the beginnings of like you know, using video games like that as a recruiting tool for the military. But even back then there was politics in it. It's just that a lot of the time I feel like when these people shout about that, they are remembering a time when it's just that they didn't have the knowledge to know about this. And I think that then the second side of it is that what they really mean when they do know is that they just want to remove politics as they see it, which aren't aligned with.
Yeah, they just don't want their views challenged.
Or then that, like, the third strain I would say is the ones that perhaps aren't as far gone as the others, and they kind of know that what they're endorsing tacitly is bad, but they don't really want to think about it or be reminded of it. It's like, don't remind me that my burger comes to me via the pain and suffering of animals or whatever. I mean, I'm a carnivore, I eat meat, but like, you should know where shit comes from or whatever. But you don't always have to feel like totally guilty. You can acknowledge things, and I think sometimes these people just don't want to acknowledge that, like, that these people are essentially right. And I don't want to hear that because you might spoil my enjoyment of my special game.
But I'm reminded of all the sort of very fashy and incel adjacent people that fucking loved Final Fantasy VII when it came out and have only in recent years realized that the protagonists are violent eco-terrorists trying to like eradicate a highly pollutant capitalist
exactly
entity.
The world that's all like industrial pipes bellowing like toxins into the atmosphere, and you're very clearly given a view of this. I mean, I haven't really played it. I've just seen a lot of like media around it, but like it's very clear even to me that there's like this is a kind of like a capitalist industrial hellscape.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and
I
you're
basically the eco-terrorists.
Yeah, like the intro, you're basically bombing a pipeline.
Ooh.
And that's good because you are the protagonists of the game. The company is very clearly set out as like the bad guys. You are the good guys, and you are infiltrating this power station to blow it up as like the first mission when you're introduced to all the characters.
I think,
but it's not political.
No, but I think actually talking about Final Fantasy VII, I'm pretty sure that like the Japanese have like quite a good track record of making quite a lot of like angsty kind of politically savvy kind of games back into like actually a lot of the games I think a lot of the weebs kind of like are a bit more, you know, tend to have like, you know, Kojima always seems to like to have, you know, he's got some very weird ideas about how to get there, but like there is like
insane.
Revolutionary sort of messaging in there. And again, you didn't hear these people fucking moaning about it back in the day.
No, they
it feels
fucking
a
love
little
Metal Gear Solid.
exactly. It kind of feels a little bit like, you know, trans people were only a problem after 2016. Before then, they were just about, and at the very worst, I guess people pitied them rather than accepted them. But like suddenly, games are, you know, but if you go back to that list of games and look at the amount of games that are not recommended, you have to wonder, what the fuck can you play? Like, if you're going to be so pure about your, like, I don't know.
And surely if you've made a list that's that long, you should realize that you actually can't get politics out of media and art, because you've literally put every fucking game, other than Pong, maybe, you've put every game on there.
I also feel like, don't you see that as, like, shouldn't that make you reevaluate your politics?
And are you not embarrassed? This is a very weird thing to have done.
It's an adjacent thing, I think, but like the thing that's like reminding me of it is there was a Politics Joe video the other day where they'd gone around and they were asking young men at like university or college who were voting reform about like their dating lives. And they're kind of saying about, oh, like as soon as someone finds out you're conservative on your dating profile, they don't want to date you. And I was saying to Connie, it's like, shouldn't that, I don't know, shouldn't that kind of inform, like you might think,
warrants further inquiry, right?
Why don't people want to date me or like sleep with me as soon as I tell them these like views I have? Like I guess I understand how you could be like, no, you know, I understand the principle of the effect of like the Simpsons meme. No, it's not me, it's the kids that are wrong. Like you've got convictions in what you believe, and it's like, you know, they just don't know the truth. But I just feel like when these blokes, these young guys, they're kind of like laying it out, and it seems like they're aware that they are in quite a minority. And it's like, I don't know, shouldn't that tell you something? But anyway, not to get into a different sort of like topic, but shouldn't it really kind of inform you of like, I guess there might be something there to do with echo chambers and the fact that if you're just spending all your time in fucking Asmongold's chat, hanging out with just 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 other little goblins that are just all saying the same thing, then you think, but this is the, I guess, the cognitive dissonance of this whole thing, which is you're getting it reinforced that actually, oh, everyone believes the same thing as me. But at the same time, you kind of understand that, oh, woke is in every game. So it's like, you understand it's so prevalent everywhere. Yeah. But at the same time, apparently your view is more like, is the popular view, because everyone I know says that woke has gone too far. So it's kind of like, then you end up in this middle section, I guess, whereby, I guess that's where it comes down to, oh, there's a gay cabal that are like trying to secretly control the world and your video games. And rather than just, maybe these things are kind of like genuinely just sort of popular. People are all right with this shit now. Like, again, so that, my point is, you'd think it would make people think like, am I the problem?
No.
But I guess it's just that reinforcement through little hug boxes that people form online.
It almost feels
that makes it like that.
I would say it almost feels like an echo chamber. Like the minority people who, I can't really say minority, but I suppose in terms of like everyone else who actually just like knows that like, you know, gay people exist. I suppose like those people who are kind of against it, they're finding others who like reference their same thoughts. Like during this time, I was just having a look, and I'm really, really worried about like any cookies being tracked in like my targeted ads because of this. But like, I found a website that
Ben tacitly admitting that he's been on Stormfront all week.
I found a website that's called Woke Detector, and like I'm going through it, and I'm just like, all of these games are just like where they say that it's woke. It's just because like a pride flag exists. In one of the Batman games.
Can't make woman marry?
No, literally, in one of the Batman games, it was saying, like, there is a voicemail from this person saying that she's getting married to her wife. And, like, that's what made it woke. And I'm like, excuse me? Like,
but if you look at that on Steam as well,
It's on
it's all the
Steam.
same thing. It's probably the same thing.
Yeah.
If you look at it on the Steam curated list, they will say things like, as well as like saying, like, I get it when you're a fucking bigot and you're just saying things against like homosexuals, the queer community, trans people, but they have like other criticisms that they put down, unironically, as why you shouldn't play this game. Is things like criticism of capitalism or colonialism. I'm like, motherfucker, when did we not get to the point where we couldn't all agree that colonialism is bad? Like,
Yeah, can
your
we just-
brains have become so cooked that you're putting that down like, oh no, this is bad because they could. Like, I don't like these people.
Also, these are the freedom of speech lot.
Yeah.
Like,
yes,
let people
exactly.
criticize things or admit you're a fascist. Like, there's only.
I
Like,
mean,
you get one or the other.
like I've said in like some of my videos, like I've just said in the world and stuff, like if you are a capitalist and you don't like that people like me and you two are going to fucking criticize your ideology and the system of capitalism, well, do you know what? Good fucking news for you, because it ain't our system that's in play, and it ain't our system that is ever really going to come into play. Your system's winning, so you have the luxury of just going, fine, little silly.
Yeah, the
hearts,
worst you
I'll
have
just
to worry
ignore
about is just
them.
not liking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And why does that hurt you so much that you need to like worry about what the fuck I think about your system? But yeah, that I do love how that's kind of woven into just general grievances. Is that a critique of capitalism? Shit's too gay. Shit's too anti-capitalist. So basically, what does that mean? It's just left wing. We just don't like the left because I guess. Are we hitting upon a theme here, which is just the right have captured fucking little goblins, and as we saw with Gamergate, they've cultivated a little army because actually, if you just add all these things up, BLM, capitalism, like all the things they gripe about, trans people, all that is generally left-wing politics. We don't need to get into the fact that left-wing politics really should be reserved for talking about economic standpoints rather than just the catch-all that it is of like progressive identity politics or whatever. But it, that feels like that is where a lot of these people are at. So, but then that still raises the question of like, why is it so prevalent in fucking society, in the games that you're all criticizing, and why does that not make you question, whether you are the problem?
Because they'd have to come to a very, very harsh truth about themselves. And of course, that means that there's something wrong. Well, there is something wrong with them rather than, the system at play. Like, that means they'll have to take personal accountability, Ian, Like, that's a little bit too much. Like, if anything, you should be blaming Avow's pronoun selection than actually just like, anything else that's wrong in the world.
Well, body type A, body type B seems to be like that. They also list that as well because that's
too
just,
much, Ian. Too much.
Yeah, that is a developer has found a way to sort of just do the bare minimum to kind of get around things rather than just say, offer up actual like pronouns and then give a non-binary option like they, them or whatever. They've just gone, body type A, body type B. You could, if you come from my sort of outside of thinking, you could call that a bit of a cop-out, really. But they've just done bare minimum and that drives them fucking wild as well. And all of these games, I mean, I don't even know if we're straying from the point here, but all of these games, often you make these choices, you then role play them as you want them. So you can fucking role play as a straight white bigot if you want to. There's no little soundbite that continually like just plays in your ear going, there's gays in this game. You can be a they, them. Pronouns. Like nothing's like continually harping on at you. Most of them, it's just like I make some choices at the beginning and then I go on my way and I can play as I want to. But yeah,
sorry, I'm cracking up because I was still going through the list because I'm just looking through the list and I'm like, all right, all the games that are woke are really, really, really fun looking. The ones that are like not woke, basically like simulator games, and like I don't have any interest in that. So I don't want to insult any of like the simulator games folks. I'm just like, okay.
It's going to be like Hearts of Iron and stuff like that.
But the funniest thing that I've just seen was for Slightly Woke, Sonic Adventure Director's Cut is
but only the director's cut.
Contains subtly pro-climate action, subtly anti-colonialism, and subtly pro-LGBTQ plus messaging. And I'm like...
Yeah.
Sonic
some of the funniest...
and just yells, fuck the police while he's doing it. Wait, that's probably that's going to be on DeviantArt or something already.
Oh, of course it is. Sonic, like,
Sonic
fucking
Hedge,
plunging himself into fucking tails or something. Yeah, what's funny about when I looked at that list of games before is that I noticed that you look on that list, there's some games that are too good, but are totally gay. But they're too good. They're actually like the games are just too good. So they have things like, I'm pretty sure it may have changed, but when I first looked on there, I'm pretty sure Baldur's Gate 3 had sort of like caution advised, because they couldn't obviously say, oh no, this game's perfectly fine. No woke detected.
Good,
because obviously, like I said in an episode a couple of episodes back, I gave my male presenting halfling a vagina. So it's obviously, and anyone that's fucking
to
played
own
that
the
game,
left.
Yeah. It's obviously anyone that's played that game and has obviously encountered and picked up Asterion for their party or whatever will know that the game is incorrigibly queer. Like,
yes.
Once you get
all the best ways.
What's the wizard guy that you pull out of the hole? He's proper gay as well. Gale as well. So you can't. There's no way you can dress that up. But because the game is just like a game of the year,
because they like it.
Maybe once in a lifetime, amazing game. They have to. It's. What I'm saying is that sometimes when you look in there, you see that they've managed to make excuses for why they can play this game, and it's not totally woke, even though some of those games are pretty fucking woke. Or if we steer back to the topic of like today, which is like politics, they will be angry if there's politics in the game, anti-capitalism, anti-colonialism stuff, but they will ignore games that are excessively political, go back to the Call of Duty example or anything like that, and so that brings us back to that point of like it is only politics that they don't personally agree with, which then obviously bounces back to Mark's point about this is the free speech lot, which we know free speech really just means I want to be able to say the N-word and no one can tell me off or something. I don't know. I mean, if we look at the bullet point list, like what have we got here in the middle? Why is everyone so dumb? And is it all politics no matter which way you slice it? Can that bring us back to a sort of topic of like, that transcends video games but considers video games as an art form in themselves, or a more broader question of like, is all art political? Because I think we were talking about art yesterday in the group chat, and we were talking about like the concept of like, I guess it depends where you're standing from, how you're viewing it. Is it therefore then that everything is political? And it just depends with how you choose to sort of interact with it, but it is inherently political. Like, can you really separate?
I think from my perspective, I believe that there is an opportunity to find like meaning in like most types of art, if not all types. And I really, really do believe that like, especially if something is based on like people's experiences, that there is going to be like some level of like, obviously personal experience, but also like political choices. Like, I feel like it's inescapable from my part. I also feel like I think you struck the nail on the head there, in the sense that like the politics is in the media that is being consumed, but I feel like it is up to the person to consume it in a way that would show real understanding about like what is in there. Like for me, I feel like if you have like the game on the right hand side, you have the political message, or just like that actual just like idea in the middle. Those two always come together, and like when that comes to the person, I feel like people will either try and just like accept it for its entirety, or they won't. But I personally don't feel like that can be like the political message, or just like even like what is being depicted can be separated from each other. I just think that like when there are just like lived experiences, even if it's something as like ridiculous and over the top, just like, I don't know, let's say that like they made a modern day Watch Dogs game, right? Like that isn't too really far from like where we are in general. It's just like a person having a little bit more access to like electronic feeds and stuff. But like, look at where we are right now. You have billion-dollar corporations pumping money into politicians so that they can get their policies just like written into local countries. Like we're already at that stage of like end game capitalism. Like I find it hard to believe that like if someone is to make, if we take the Watch Dogs game for example, if someone were to make that again like in 2025 2026, or you know like with the game dev pipeline probably like 2029 or whatever, but like it's not really straying too far from where we're at. I feel like there is just a lot of willful ignorance, or someone's like kind of like brainstem isn't properly developed as of yet. Because I remember when I was a kid, whenever Bioshock Infinite came out, that's the key.
The most politely delivered insult.
Like no, that's the thing though, because like people aren't fully developed apparently until like 25 or whatever. But like when Bioshock Infinite came out, I was like, oh, this is really, really cool. This is such a fun game. Like, I can drink this thing and then I can shoot, like, lava out of my hands. That's so cool. Like, I don't really understand why it's in, like, the steampunk setting. Like, I don't really know what's going on, but it's a really cool background. But, like, looking back at it and just, like, a lot of the things that were going on there and just, like, reading, like, different reviews on it now, it's just like, wow, I really, really missed the point.
Well, for what you said there, it's made me think, what do we think about like the concept of talking about like politics shaping everything, and therefore politics is like irremovable from the art, being that even if I make a game that is very pleasant based on maybe like my experience of life, hasn't got anything inherently politics, but politics shapes my life perhaps and gives me comfort and allows me to make like a nice sort of happy game. Is that still politics? Like having, because politics affects everything in our lives, is that still a product of, and therefore like politics sort of having an effect on games? So like in terms of like it being inescapable, because whether it's good or bad, it creates the environment of which the game or art is produced within. Or is that kind of trying to go in
No, I think you completely
Inception knots around and around. But
it also gives you the limits within which you can create and distribute your art and what it can be about.
Yeah. Yeah,
no,
exactly.
because even if you were to make a game, it's just like it was a very, very nice experience, just like really cozy, just really nice. It's just like if that is what your intention is, that is like how you view, that could be how you view just like what is comfort to you. And not to rail too much on like the commune point again, but like again, I like the idea of just like having a solar punk style game where like people are just getting along and everyone's just like working together and just like building that space. It could be, I don't know,
like a good version of This War of Mine.
Yeah. Like that's the thing. Like I feel like even if there is a even if there was like a kind of like quote unquote cozy game, and like there wasn't like as much like conventional conflict, I do feel that like even the creator's direction or the vision of what they want for the game will also just be inspired by or like the main foundation from their own personal experiences.
I think
like
that was part of what I was trying to express, that like even unwittingly you will create it will you might not think you're creating it as a result of politics, but you may sort of be. But also what I think you're talking about, Ben, is a private communist Rust server, if such a thing exists, where everyone where rather than everyone fucking kill each other and then like throw slurs and like I don't know, we maybe all seen the YouTube videos of like a fucking 12-year-old like weeping into his microphone because someone has like fucking got in his base and just cleaned him out or something and is refusing to open his door for him or whatever. I assume that something like Rust could be the very best of like,
I've just seen.
You know, you all work into. If you had a private server, I'm sure you could turn that into a cozy game. But I don't know. Have you ever played Palia, which apparently is a MMORPG with no combat? Which is just
I think that's on my wish list.
Yeah. I've just not bothered to get into it yet because I just don't know. Like, combat in MMORPGs is the brainless part that I just kind of go like. And I just sort of watch something on TV on the second monitor and I kind of just do it. Like I just ras up another fucking goblin's face while I just merrily go my way. It's like a brainless thing. I don't know how that will actually play out in this, but I'm willing to give it a go.
Came out last year, apparently.
Oh yeah, it's been out for a little while, but and it's got a few patches and stuff. But I've just not got round to doing it because, as you've mentioned before, Ben, there is just so many games. But I do, as Mike said, I do like your Finley sort of. I don't think you meant it this way, but I definitely would like to use like your brainstem is just not developed yet as like a sort of like as an insult to like people.
Quite dismissive, yeah.
It's okay. Don't worry, your brain cell is just not. Your brain stem is just
you'll
not
understand
developed.
when you're fully.
When your brain stem is fully developed.
We'll have this conversation afterwards.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we could safely say that you can't extract. Well, because the other thing I was going to say is that neither can you, like, politics informs it, but also even if you did make something with no politics at all, like, people can always extract politics from it. Like, I've watched enough like videos where someone, and this is a different topic, but the same process or something could be applied to anything, which is I've watched enough films where they've looked at like an Arnie film and they've applied queer theory to it and created like a whole different meaning as to what it represents and how it represents it.
Well, I think the original Halloween film is the best post-Vietnam film to describe. I ended up going on like quite a tirade on Letterboxd and wrote like a 5-paragraph explanation of my hatred for the new one, but how politically like savvy it is as a remake. But the point being that yes, one does bring one's own politics to these things.
So even if you can't separate the politics from the game, and you do manage to make this mythical unicorn, which is the apolitical game, I can come along and I can find, just like with like Clair Obscur, I'm sure that's got something to say politically, but I've got about 3 different kind of themes that I would like to explore as what it reminds me of. But the same thing is I could take your game and I could start to like twist it and corrupt it and go, that's actually about like, you know, the oppression of whatever. What if Slime Rancher was actually about like, you know, Palestinian conflict? You're collecting these slimes and you're trapping them in this place and you're extracting their resources or whatever it is. You know, you
can certainly
you can make things political as well as not be able to remove politics from it. And also, I think that just everything, no matter how innocent, just comes as a result of the politics that you live under.
Like, oh gosh, could you imagine? Like, Again, I'm gonna say this because like I have not played this game, but like, could you imagine like if there was a post-Brexit patch for Euro Truck Simulator? Like what would
Well,
like,
you
the trucking
can't go
industry look
anywhere.
like?
It's queuing at Dover for hours.
Like, what
I've
would you
played a lot
do?
of Euro Truck Simulator.
Yeah, like I don't know, just like what. I feel like with some of these games, like they will have to reflect like a realistic experience as much as possible. But like if you are like a truck simulator and like Brexit has happened, like what would happen there? And like what happens if there are like, I don't know, potholes in this place that you're going through?
I'm pretty sure
know.
I'm pretty sure that the game developers don't, because they just want people to be able to buy all of their various expansions for
That's true.
Iberia or Portugal or wherever it is, or like Eastern Europe. However, I'm almost just as sure, and you know, that people will go in and mod Stellaris so that there's no black races in it.
Oh, God.
There will be some fucking fervent little twat who's gone in and modded Euro Truck Simulator so that you can't fucking go to Europe. I mean, of course, the reality would be you can go to Europe. You'll just have to pay loads of tariffs and wait. That's what I like. The one where you have to wait at Dover for like 8 hours before you can like cross the channel on a ferry or something. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just to say that like you can most certainly ascertain some form of like political message, or just like you can grab that from anything, really. I feel like it's very, very much impossible to have like something truly apolitical. And I feel like the people who are striving for that either are wondering that if it's like a proof of concept type of thing, if it could actually be done. B, they're being like willfully ignorant, or C, they just are they're actively ignorant. I don't know. That's my working theory.
I think what you're saying, Ben, is what we're all saying is politics is in everything, and therefore now I cannot feel so bad about the fact that I think about politics all the time, because as we've proved, it's in everything, and therefore my obsessions are valid. So
exactly, I am correct.
Exactly.
But if you tried to make something that was apolitical, that would be dictated entirely by what was political.
Exactly.
So you'd still be the list of what was available to you would be based on whatever was considered political at the time.
Damn, I've done an accidental politics.
Again.
All right, well, I'm gonna. Maybe I'll look into making that realistic Brexit Euro Simulator 2 mod, which will just where you just queue and then you lose all your money because all of your produce just spoiled in your hot sun at the back of your lorry. But yeah, I don't know. With just like Mark said in the first thing, he's all out of whimsy and all out of. I'm all out of politics.
Yeah,
until I go away and start thinking about more politics.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I was
just
going to say on top of that as well is just that, like, I feel that even when you don't have, like, the reactionary, like, right incel adjacent folks harping on about this, I really do feel that, like, the people who are pushing back against that, just saying, like, hey, actually, everything is political. Like, I feel like it is a very, very tough and potentially thankless job. But, like, I do feel one of the things that I've just realized, like, growing up is just that, like, people who haven't become, like, burnt out just talk about this, and they're just constantly going back and saying, like, hey, actually, all of these games are political, or it's good to be, like, unapologetic about that. I haven't realized, like, how much of a problem that was, seeing just like people get like hate brigaded and just like stuff like that. So it's just, again, I am very, very like grateful to like all of the like journalists and just like developers that I follow who are just like, actually, well, that's where you're wrong. All of these things are real and will be in my games, and you can suck it or not buy my game. I think
the last thing I would just say is that, you know, yes, there are this portion of the right and like you said, the incel adjacent, bigoted type people. I think the portion of people that you mentioned that are pushing back on it are also quite likely a smaller section as well, much like the people on the right. And I think that there is two things here that we should consider. Is one, that this is all, a lot of this all takes place online where things are amplified. And two, that I just think, much like in real life, much like with things like trans rights, much like with things like LGBTQ rights, much like with lots of things, there is a massive, big block in the middle that just simply does not fucking care. They don't care like the right wing think they care about, there's too much politics in the game, and they don't care in the same way that we think it, whereas we're looking for it and we're pointing out like you're being a cunt. they just fucking exist and play the games and just don't care. So I feel like there is the right, to my mind, we are, I would say that our side is more slightly aligned with that central block of just don't care, because we're just pointing out, hey, you're being dicks on that other side. And so what I'm saying is it's just those fucking dicks on the other side. They're the ones harping on, they're the ones causing problems, they're the ones making issues out of things, because we will maybe vocally fight for inclusion and sort of representation. But if that block in the middle just don't really care, then I would say that they're kind of just like centrists can sort of tacitly endorse and sort of aid the right. They're kind of tacitly endorsing and aiding and reinforcing our position, which is this is not a big deal. So I think the majority of people, whichever way you slice it, are on board with us, and it's just those cunts over there. So that's
I do like the general passive goodness of people on the most part is a real thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that is hard.
Which is possibly the most positive summary we've had.
Yes, we're ending on quite a positive note for a change. So,
yeah. No, well, yeah, I feel like that's a really good
Stick that in your pipe.
I feel that's a really good way to end it on. So, to everyone, thank you so much for listening. Please follow us on all our socials and comment to let us know on what you think about this week's topic. Have a great day wherever and whenever you are, and we'll see you all next time.
Peace.
Bye.
Peace.